No introduction needed. Yes, I've been with the DLC for a long time. I got many hats, but this is my primary gig, helping people learn our stuff. Dominion has a lot of technology, a lot of tools and services, so I'm always here just to make sure that you guys are aware of them, share my experiences and how I use these tools, share my experiences and how I see other people use these tools, and train, I guess. My title is VP of Training. I hate that word training, but really support in any way I can. So my latest focus, of course, has been on velocity, as it's new to most of us, and I feel that I'm a lot better versed in helping people understand velocity because I speak your language, a broker language. The people over at Velocity, they're techie guys and girls, and they don't really speak our language as well. So I feel that they don't really put it across the finish line as well as maybe I can. So that's what I've been doing a lot of lately. But yeah, that's what I do: train, support, help, whatever I can do. And most of you do know me from me being in your office a few times and all my emails and whatnot. So I don't think that is needed. So what I wanted to do today, and is going to be 2 sessions. We're doing today and then in 2 weeks again, I think, or 3 weeks again, 2 weeks again.
3 weeks, yeah,
Yeah.
September 1st.
And the topics go hand in hand. Today, I want to show you the velocity dashboard. Pretty easy, but I just want to make sure that you guys understand the value of the dashboard and how you can implement it into your business. Really helps you keep you organized. But really, the concept of the dashboard is to make sure that your files that you have on the go are in the right status or the right level, because the next session is going to be on the CRM. And the CRM is 100% driven by file statuses. So if you're not using the dashboard and aren't putting files in the correct status levels, then the CRM is useless to you. So the CRM is the good part. It's fun. It's super easy. This is kind of the segue to that. So there's our 2-week session. Dashboard today, CRM next time. And they're pretty simple. So let's go through it.
Greg, if we have questions, would you prefer that the questions are asked right away, or should we save them for later?
I say unmute yourself and yell at me.
Okay, so ask away, everyone.
And if I'm going to get to that, I'll say I'll get to that kind of idea. So I'm going to share my screen and just kind of go over dashboard. And again, you may know what the dashboard is, but I'm just going to kind of share with you how you may not be using it and how you can help organize your business. So dashboard has 2 prongs. It's going to help keep your life extremely organized, especially when you have lots of files on the go. And it'll be the segue to make sure that the CRM is going to work in your favor. So let's dive into sharing my screen, and I'm going to show you the dashboard from my perspective. And I'm always never offended if you don't agree with some of the things I say or how I pitch things. That's totally fine. I only do is I share what I've seen and how it could benefit you. So you should see the dashboard on the screen, correct? I shared the right screen? Yes, all right. So dashboard, forget all the deals on here because this is my true live dashboard. And my dashboard shows the entire brokerage that I'm under, DLC National. So it's super busy. When you open up your dashboard, it should only have your deals on it, so it won't be as chaotic as mine. So don't worry too much about the deals that you see on the screen. We're going to simply focus on the dashboard columns, topics, headers, whatever, these color-coded sections. And then before I dive into the dashboard, you may be looking at my screen and say, well, mine's a bit different, because you can decide what you want to have on your dashboard. If you go into the settings, the Me button in the top right-hand corner, and then settings, you scroll down in the settings and you'll see a dashboard section, and you can remove things that you don't want to see. So for example, I don't have leads showing, as you guys probably do, and I don't have pre-approval showing. So I just remove those within settings. That's just me, because I like the dashboard to show my live deals. And this is how I'm going to pitch it to you folks, is this helps organize your live deals. Yes, leads and pre-approvals are important, but I just remove them for my benefit.
Just a note, though,
yep.
If you were to send a client experience to someone,
yep,
that will only show up as a lead until they input their information. So I think that the leads is kind of one of the nice ones to have in there, but that's me.
Oh yeah, both those columns are super uber important. I just don't do pre-approvals in my brokerage, so it doesn't pertain to me. So that's all. I just wanted to clarify that if you're wondering why mine looks different than yours. But yeah, Pete's totally right. Dashboard. So each column in the dashboard is file status. So as a file moves through the process of towards the funding line, the statuses can change. Most of the statuses change automatically on their own. Some you have to do some clicking, but we're talking like one click, not a big deal. So before people start to get maybe a bit of an anxiety, I'm going to go through each status, how to change it. But then at the end, I'm going to show you a shortcut. If you don't want to go through each and every status, you can leapfrog from the start right to the end, because it's the end status. This one right here is where all the CRM speaks to. The CRM, the way it's built right now out of the box, will only send messages to funded deals. So if you're not putting them deals into this funded status, the CRM ain't going to speak to it. So if you don't want to go through each step like I'm going to show you, which I don't know why you wouldn't, but if you don't, you can just leapfrog it right to this one status when the file's done. So I'll get to that at the end. But here we go. I'm going to go verbally this way, just showing you and explaining each status, and then I'm going to go into an actual application and show you how to move them along. So starting with this column, new deals, pretty much how it says. This is anything that's a new deal to you. So someone's applied overnight online. They did a client experience. You keyed it in. It's a new application that's set for an approval, not a pre-approval. So these are your approval deals that aren't submitted yet. So me, as a leader to my agents underneath me, I always kind of scream at them saying, this should be empty every night. If you have an application that's sitting there, why is it sitting there for more than a day or two? Like, yes, of course, maybe you don't want to submit it until you're waiting for that pay stub to come in, which is a smart thing to do, but it shouldn't be sitting here very long. So in a perfect world, this column should be empty quite often. If you got a deal in there, get what you need and get it submitted. So if it sits there for too long, you might lose the deal because they're going to go somewhere else. So this is your first to-do list of every day. You open up your computer, and if you have deals in here, you work on them. You underwrite them. You do what you got to do so it's ready to submit. And then as soon as you hit that submit button in Velocity, it automatically goes here. Nothing for you to do at all. Great. So then your next task for the day is to go through your submitted deals. And if it's been in a reasonable amount of time, start following up with your lenders. Hey, it's been submitted now for a couple of days. Where's my decision? Where's my approval? So task 1, get your deals out the door. Task 2, follow up with your lenders when you think it's time. And then as lenders start to make a decision, they're hopefully going to move into the approve bucket or the decline bucket, which I think I have over here. Yeah, decline. So again, 9 times out of 10, when the deal is approved, it should automatically move to approved status. Not always, and I'll show you how to move it manually if you have to. But
Greg, which lenders are the ones that don't submit back through Velocity? Or even for our brokers that know this?
It's a loaded question because, like, for example, I just learned this. Now, Scotia doesn't report back, like some don't report back, but what I've just learned is the ones that do don't always, because it kind of, I don't know how to describe this without sounding stupid, but I guess it changes. Like they have to, if First National reports back, it doesn't do it all the time. It'll do it like 3 out of 4 times. And that's something to do with the Newton and the expert kind of bridge thing. So Pete, I don't 100% know all of them are supposed to, but again, it's hit and miss when they always do.
That's pretty much my experience, though. I know Scotia does not, and I know that First Nat is kind of mostly, but then there is the odd occasional one that doesn't. So yeah.
So and I never pressed it because sometimes I just take their answers and say, okay, that's dumb, but whatever. But that was the answer I was given by Newton. Is like 4 out of 5 times First Nat will show it's approved, and then they can't do it all the time. They got to rotate it, I guess. Whatever. So just know that when you got an approval, you'll know when you got an approval. You may have to manually move it into approved status. It's one click. It's pretty easy. I'll show you how to do that. But again, to-do list. Deals out the door, follow up your lenders. Now approved. If you've got a deal sitting in an approved bucket, what does that mean? It means you got a commitment sitting there. So there's your next task. Get the commitment out the door or book your commitment signing appointment or however you do your commitments. But this is a task. Deals shouldn't sit here for very long because it means there's a commitment sitting there. And the longer a commitment sits there, the better chance that you might get shopped and lose the deal. So it's all helps to keep you organized, but motivated to keep that deal moving forward. So again, if I have a deal sitting and approved, it's sitting there for more than maybe 1 or 2 days max. So again, I'll go through all my approved deals, build my approval packages, all our compliance and paperwork that we have to do, and get it in front of the client. However you do that, emails, make appointments, whatever. But even if you've got it out with a client for them to sign on their own accord, ride their ass. Like, don't let it sit there for very long, because if they're holding on to your approval for days and days and days, they're probably shopping you. So put pressure on them to get it back to you. And you probably all know this, with rates changing so fast, lenders are really adhering to their expiration dates. If you let a commitment expire, you've lost that rate. So more motivation to work this file diligently. So each column so far has things for you to do, right? And then once the client does physically sign your commitment by ink or e-sign or whatever you do, then you have to put it into accepted status. This is 100% you have to click the button to move the file into accepted status. Unlike FileLogic's Expert, there was an accept button on that system. Not that I want to go back to remember that, but that meant that you accepted it. In Velocity, this means the client accepted it. So you're going to move it into accepted status to show you that you got a sign back. And so then the task now is, okay, I got sign backs. Now what are you doing while it's sitting in the accepted status? You're chasing the docs. You're getting the last few conditions fulfilled, the appraisal, the pay stubs, whatever you have left to get. This is your doc chasing column. Super important, because this is where you're going to forget, or this is where you could forget subject removal dates or funding dates. Like, it shouldn't be in this column for very long either, because again, lenders are really enforcing that 10 days before closing kind of file complete thingy. So this column should be monitored quite diligently. So deals out the door, follow up with lenders, get my approval package out the door, and now I got the approval package back and I'm chasing their last remaining documents. This is now where the CRM kicks in. So when you are file complete, we're still in accepted status, and when we get that awesome email, your file complete or broker complete, which is my favorite email, that is a feel good moment. You want to click a button. So it's another task that you got to do, and you are going to click a button and move it into waiting to close. That means anything in this column, you are file complete. There's no more docs to chase. You're just waiting to close. But this has huge importance. A, from a customer service point of view, and B, from a data integrity point of view. So again, just because you're waiting to close, you're still not done working. While you're waiting to close, because it may not be for another month that the closing date's coming. While you're waiting for closing, you could, of course, follow up to make sure it's instructed and make sure that they have their house insurance and make sure their moving truck's booked and all those nice little touch points that you can do while you're waiting to close. Particularly make sure it's instructed. But from a CRM data perspective, in my opinion, the most important task for files here is the closing date. Is the closing date accurate? And again, ignore my data, it's pretty messed up here. But a file stays in this column for 5 days past the set closing date. And the set closing date is whatever date you have on the application. So if the closing date was, what's today? The 10th, no, 11th, we'll call it the 10th. If the closing date was the 10th, the file would sit here until the 15th on purpose. As soon as the closing date comes and goes, so yesterday was the 10th, so today is the 11th. Well, because the closing date is now behind us, you would see this red closing date right here. I don't have any in this column, so just pretend this red closing date is right here. That's to give you the heads up. Red's kind of stand outish, right? That, hey, Chris, something closed yesterday or in the last 4 days. Is it correct? So if you see a red closing date, your only task is take a look at that date. Did it actually close on that date? We all know closing dates can move. Hopefully not purchases, but refinances do all the time. So while you're waiting to close, you have 5 days to pay attention to that and tweak the closing date if it didn't actually close on the 10th. Maybe it got bumped to today. And so if it wasn't the 10th, like this red one would show, you just click on it and you just change the date to the 11th. That is hugely important for your data's integrity and for the CRM. Because the CRM, almost any CRM out there, use velocities or not, it's all driven off the closing date. Like renewal dates are 5 years from the closing date. Anniversaries are 12 months from the closing date. Like everything is from the closing date. So if your closing date's wrong, your CRM's wrong. So I like this, that you're given a red punch in the face to bring to your attention, yeah, it closed on that date or it didn't. And if it didn't, you just click on it and adjust the date. Pretty simple.
Greg, you know I'm going to argue with you on this one.
Okay, that's
It's
your
the interest
job.
adjustment date.
What's that?
It's the interest adjustment date
What is?
that everything gets based off of for anniversaries.
Yeah, but when you set the closing date, the interest adjustment date is automatically usually
Should
changed.
be. It should be.
Right.
Check your interest adjustment dates.
Okay. Good point. Good point. I use the terminology that you see on the screen here, but yeah, you're right. It probably should say interest adjustment date. Okay, but you get the concept of waiting to close. Make sure it's instructed, do your nice touch points, but really just monitor your closing dates and make sure they're accurate. I can say with 100% conviction that almost every data that I look at of you guys's, like agents out there, their closing dates are all over the place because they haven't been monitoring them. So now is hopefully the dashboard's going to help keep you on track of your closing dates. And then when the 6th day comes, because remember it stays here for 5 days past the closing date, on the 6th day, it just sits, automatically goes to the funded column. Yay! And now the CRM will start speaking to it. But your job is not over because you haven't been paid yet. Like that's important. That's kind of why we did this, right? So it sits in that column until your commission shows up. And then once the commission actually shows up, you can mark the file as I've been paid, and now it falls off your dashboard. It's a live deal on the go until money's in your pocket. So I'll ask Pete this question. I don't know how you guys do this. Do you mark it as payment received for your agents when you pay them, or do they have to do that themselves?
I don't think they can mark them. I think you have to have administrator status, so it's me.
Okay. I've actually never heard that before. I'm not sure, Pete. Let's check that out.
I could be wrong on that because I can only see it from my side. But
I'll show you where to check this, guys, and someone
Yeah.
maybe jump into a file and see if you can see this. But that's the concept. It's on your dashboard. It's in your face until you've been paid. Because yeah, lenders forget to pay sometimes. Head office has made some mistakes. Maybe Deb's decided not to pay you. Who knows? So you want to have notice that I haven't been paid. So it should be on your dashboard until you've been paid. And then it falls off, and away you go.
There's a whole bunch of files that, for me, on my dashboard that should have shown as paid.
Yeah.
And so I can then click on to take me to that particular file, go up to the top right corner, and mark as paid.
I'm going to talk about that shortcut at the end because
yeah. So there's now the question is there a way to move things from one column to the next without having to open up the file? Or is there a shortcut to that, or do you have to open up the file to do
you
anything?
have to go into the file to do things.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So again, I'm going to show you now. We'll go into an application. We'll move it along step by step, and then I'm going to show you a shortcut how to leapfrog it, and then I'll show you what Chris just said, how to clean up your dashboard. So you can really just spend an hour and clean it all up. So there's my pitch on dashboard. Again, imagine when you have 20 files on the go. It's pretty easy to lose track of dates and timing and what's on the go, what's not. You don't all have assistants. So this is really helps people keep organized. They look at it every single day. They know what they got to work on, what their tasks are every single day. Okay, so let's one more time, and then I'll jump into the file. You got an application, you got to get it out the door, you hit submit. Then you follow up with your lenders, you get your decisions, and hopefully it's approved. Get the commitment out to the door, get it signed by the client quickly, and now it's in accepted status. You chase your docs, you get everything done until your file complete, and then it moves into waiting to close, monitor your closing date to make sure it's accurate, and then make sure your payment shows up, and then it falls off your dashboard. In a perfect world, there's only a couple clicks to do, but sometimes, like we said earlier, you may have to do some manual stuff. So I'm going to show you everything. So let's go over to a live deal. This is a deal for Sterling Archer and Lana Kane, and it's a new application. You've underwrite it, you got your documents, you're ready to go. And so then it's a new status, and then you write your lender notes and you submit it to a lender, which would be right here. And poof, it's automatically moves into submitted status. Easy. And then once, this is what, I think I set it up for Home Trust. Once Home Trust approves it, so you just hitting the submit button moves it automatically. Once Home Trust approves it, as we said, it should automatically now be in approved status, and Home Trust 9 times out of 10 does do that. But if it didn't move it automatically into approved status, or maybe you're using a credit union that doesn't speak to Velocity, if you want to manually mark it as approved, well, look right here, right under the mortgage request, you'll see, oops, mark as approved. I'll admit Brent for you. So this button here is strictly for CRM purposes. It doesn't do anything besides mark it as approved. So if you have to manually, and you want to manually put it into approved status, right there. So I click that, and it now is in approved status. Again, if I needed to do that, and I'm going to say, maybe not 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, it'll be approved automatically. But if it doesn't, then you just click this button here. Easy, right? So now we're in approved status. So you get your commitment signed or out to the client. How do we get it from approved to accepted? Well, this is where now I want to get this approved deal into accepted status. If you want to do it this way, you got to go down to the conditions section, and you're going to add the condition signed commitment. Everyone has that in their systems. You go to add a condition, signed commitment, there it is. You add it. So the computer, or Newton or Velocity, whatever you want to call this thing, only knows that you got a signed commitment when you add a signed commitment condition. But you have to add the condition, again, the green button here, add. And then once you have added it, you physically upload the signed commitment, the actual paper, or you could just click the button. So if you don't want to upload documents into each and every condition, I don't, I just put them all in one lump sum. I would just click this to make it coded as accepted. Otherwise, if I physically uploaded a document, it would go into accepted status. So that's how you move it from approved to accepted, is you add the condition, signed commitment, and upload it, or click, I've signed it. And now it's in accepted status. Awesome. So again, once we're in accepted status, that means we now got to chase the docs. We're not done yet. There's still something outstanding. And you could use this condition and document section to remind you what's outstanding if you're using that, but we're not talking about that today, but I can another day. This should be your ever evolving tick sheet or outstandings list. So you could very easily see here what's outstanding. But point is, once you have all the conditions outstanding or fulfilled, you want to be broker complete, right? You want to tell the computer that you're broker complete. You want to move it into waiting to close. So all you do is right there, right at the top of the section, lender conditions met. So for me to put it from accepted to waiting to close, I just click that button, and it's now in waiting to close. Nice and organized. So I keep repeating myself, just repetitiveness. You have to put it into accepted status yourself, and you have to click the button to put it into waiting to close. And that's one click for waiting to close and one condition for accepted status. And then now, again, you're waiting for it to close. When the closing date comes and goes, and it's now 6 days past the closing date, it's in the funded column. And then when your commission shows up, right at the very top of the application, again, we'll test this out. Either Pete's doing this for you or you're doing this yourself. The very top of the application, you hit action and received payment. But the stigma is, if you don't see received payment, it's because you're not in the right status. This received payment will not show up if this is not checkmarked. So watch, if I take the check mark off, I'm now no longer in funded status. Received payment's not an option there. So you have to click this to put it into funded status for you to be able to code it as received payment. So if someone wants to take a little break and jump onto a file and see if that received payment shows up, Pete says it has to be administration status. I don't think so, but I'm not sure because I have administrative status too. So
I could totally be wrong.
Probably.
Stop it. There are, so I just will note that there probably are some files from last year when we made the switch that didn't get the received payment noted on them. So if any of the brokers find those, please let me know. Or if you can mark them as paid, please do so as well. But let me know and I can help out as well.
Okay, so that's the dashboard. Like I was late, so that's 20 minutes. It took me to explain the dashboard, and I said it like 3 or 4 times. So it's really an easy concept to do. It may feel a bit awkward to kind of do this, but it's really helps you keep organized. No more needing whiteboards and spreadsheets, and it's all right there. To-do list every single day. Now, a couple things before I move on. If you want to clean it up, like say, Greg, I don't care about each and every status along the way. I just want to get it into approved status, or the funded status. So if you want to just leave it as approved, go for it. That's up to you. You're not going to have the benefit of keeping track of things moving along the way, but if you don't want to do that, then you can leapfrog from anything. It could be at this status, it could be at this status. Doesn't matter where the status is. All you got to do is check mark lender conditions met, and it'll automatically go to funded. So one click, you go into each application, Chris, you have to go into each application, you click this one thing, and no matter what status it's in, it's going to leapfrog right to waiting to close or funded if the closing date's 6 days old, which most of your
I find that I've got in order to get compliance docs, it's easier to click the lender conditions met already. So
oh yeah,
so that part is just part of the process.
Right. Now, for cleaning up your dashboard, if you've never done this before and your dashboard's pretty busy, then I wouldn't bother moving it along each column. Just clean up your dashboard. So, like for example, you start with the approved bucket, and then okay, you go through your approved buckets. You know which ones funded and which ones didn't. Just click on each file. Go into this first one, Vincent Dumas. I would click on it, and all I got to do is click this one button. Done. Then go back to the dashboard. Next file, click on it. If it funded, click the one button. Done. So it's not a big task to clean up your dashboard if it's messy, and I think it's well worth the effort. And then once it's cleaned up, then yeah, try to force yourself or try it using each and every status. It really is nice and organized. And then last little concept, and then we can ask questions if there's any. The CRM, the way it's built, again, yes, you can leapfrog over every status if you want and just get it here, because the CRM that we're going to look at next session only speaks to files in funded status. But you can change that. This is basically a trigger. So the CRM will trigger when the status is achieved. So just something to think about when you're deciding if you want to use each and every status. Good example is one of our busier brokers loved the concept of when it was funded, an email would go out automatically and ask for a Google review. And he would be getting Google reviews. But then they started to peter off. He wasn't getting as many. And he kind of realized it's been such a crazy last year or so that the road from approved to funding is pretty bumpy. And so the reviews weren't as much as they were before because it was a little bit bumpy to get to the closing. Stressful, lenders wanted more shit, whatever. So he decided, hey, instead of asking for a Google review at funded status, why don't I ask for a Google review here? Accepted means they've signed the approval. That's the happiest point of the transaction. So he asked me, could I do that? Yes, he just went into the CRM and found that campaign, which we're going to show you next week or next time. And we just changed the trigger from funded to accepted. And so now every time he throws a deal into accepted status, an email goes out asking for a Google review, and his reviews resume back to where they were. So I only share that story because there is value if you have files in the right status along the way, because you could decide to send out things all the time. Like, for example, when it's in waiting to close status, you could have an email automatically go out. We're done. Make sure it's, your lawyer is ready for you. Or it hits the status and email goes out. We're done. Make sure you have your house insurance or whatever you want to do. So you can have a communication piece go out automatically whenever it hits the status of your choice. But if you don't want to bother with that, it's already built to go out every single time a deal is funded. So that's why this is the almost mandatory session to do before we talk about CRM, because you need to know this before we get into the CRM. And I just love it. Once you start to use it, it really helps you keep organized. That's it. Any questions? I'm going to do it again. Come on. Nothing? Okay.
When are we doing the CRM? 2 weeks?
September 1st.
Okay.
And then the CRM, for those of you that used to use Client Manager, remember the old program that we had to, what do we call it, retire? It's exactly the same. It's got the exact same campaigns that the old Client Manager did, where you just turn it on, and as soon as the deal funds, stuff starts going out. All you got to do is decide how you want the messages to look. It's kind of fun. You get to just build, basically, at the very least, you drag in your headshot to each campaign. But you can change the banner, the look, the wording, that kind of stuff, and I'll go over all that. So the only work with CRM is to design how your messages look and read, and then turn it on, and out they go.
So right now with the CRM, I have to check my CRM, Velocity CRM every day. Just
For the
get
activity
caught
page.
up on birth dates and, you know, crap like that. And
I'm paraphrasing. You're right, Chris. There is a little bit more to it, and I'll talk about that on September 1st. But yeah,
okay.
nothing goes out to the client until it goes to you first, because you always want to have that last set of eyes to say, yeah, that's good to go, or no, that guy's a loser, I don't want him to ever talk to him again. You can deny it from going out. So you do have a bit of a gatekeeper mentality. So good question, Chris, and I'm about to cover that on September the 1st. This is just to kind of get your brain thinking, hey, I like this concept. It will help me keep organized. And while it's a bit slower, this is the perfect time to maybe clean up your dashboard and start practicing moving files along. Once you get the hang of it, it's like literally zero effort. One click, one click.
Greg,
I think we had,
about
we have a few brokers on this call that are not on Velocity. I don't want to point them out, but one has already left the call. And then there might be one who's kind of smirking right now. I can see you, Judy.
Way to call her out.
I did call her out. So I mean this, and I think that's why David Iverson left the call, because he doesn't use Velocity.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, that's no problem. Don't want to use Velocity, don't have to use Velocity. It's your choice.
So Judy, if you, I'm sure Greg would be happy to do a one-on-one and walk you through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what I can say is the most daunting thing about Velocity is freaking out because it does so much. That means you have a lot to learn.
Yeah.
That's not the way you learn it. You learn by doing one thing first, applications, just like you're doing an expert. And that's all I'd focus on, Judy, is I'm going to show you exactly what you're doing in expert today, but in Velocity. And it's pretty much the same.
And don't you worry, Cornelia and Will. I'll call you out too, because they're not on Velocity either. So
well, I can let Pete stick handle that, and we can just do some Velocity sessions for those who want to brush up or learn it for the first time. And again, I will say I'm very good at making it very easy to learn. It's not daunting. We just remove all the noise, all the bells and whistles, and just do what you're doing now. And then maybe a year later, okay, I'm ready to take a little bit more on, then we'll do a little bit more. But to get a deal in on Velocity.
The one thing I find funny is I don't think any of my brokers have said that, but I've heard other brokers saying that they were too busy to take the time to learn. And I went cold turkey, right? Just cut it off, right? And a lot of people don't believe that, but I did. And it's the best way to learn. And if I can do it, you know, and I know what my volume is, you know,
and the first month for you, Deb, was clunky as hell. Like it was clunky as hell until you kind of, hey, I got it.
But I did try it like what, 3 years ago, and I said, forget it. I want out. I don't want to do this. And then I came back in a year or so, like last year, and it's been great because I think I've been on it nonstop since
about a year now. Just
over a year, I think.
I think to your credit, you've done most of it yourself. Like I don't think I did hardly anything.
No, we had one girl try to teach me, and it was very, very annoying and so I said, no, I'm out.
So
And
good story, because it's not hard to learn. It's not.
no. So, I mean, I don't do the dashboard a lot because I've got my own system in place, but I might, when I slow down, look at that. But right now I'm just way too busy for that. But
Yeah.
the deals going through, sending out the clients the tick sheet to say upload your documents, that's so much easier.
Awesome. And yeah, if you don't use the dashboard, then you still just click that one button, file complete, or lender conditions met, and then the CRM will still work for you.
Yeah, I don't do that. Somebody else does that for me.
I know. Not all of us have a team of people.
Right.
All right. Anyone else? Comments, questions, concerns?
Greg.
Can you stop sharing your screen?
Oh, sure.
If someone wants to put in an internal note, something that is not sent to the lenders,
yep,
would that go under notes after it's been submitted? Because it seems like this particular broker was chatting about how it seemed like everything went to the lender. My thought was that if you put in a note under the notes section, it would just stay purely internal.
100% correct, Pete. When you write your lender notes in the lender notes sections, yes, those show up in the notes section as well. But any notes that you add manually to that note section goes nowhere.
Right. Exactly.
And on that note, pun intended, since you brought it up, let me, yes, dad jokes rock. Let me show you a real quick thing, just again, since you brought it up. So what Pete's talking about is, where am I? So yeah, you write lender notes in this section here, submission notes. Lenders only see what you type here. But as soon as you hit submit, these notes will also show up down here in the notes section. But if you were to manually add your own notes here, this is where this is kind of like your notebook. Hey, this is where you're gonna write the kids' names down, or what their hobbies are, so you can talk about that next time, or what their goals were, or whatever. You write notes yourself here. They only stay, no one sees them but you and the auditor. But you can delete them as well. But this should be where all your notes are. Hey, next time I talk to this client, ask him about his kid, or how graduation was, or how the fishing trip was, whatever. But what I was going to show you is, if it's a note that you really want to make sure you don't miss, once you type the note, again, I just added a note, you can pin it. See this little, looks like a pin? You pin it, and now that note is quite unmissable. It's pretty punchy in the face, green, right there. So good example is, if you have a really kind of creative way how you calculated the income, or complicated way you calculated the income, and then a week later the underwriter calls you, how the hell did you do your income? I would write a note and how I calculated it and pin it, and that way when the underwriter does call, it's right there. Or you suspect fraud, so you want to see the ID first, or whatever. So anyways, sidebar, Pete. But yeah, answer to your question is, you add notes, they do not go anywhere. You collect documents, they don't go anywhere. Nothing goes to the lender unless you tell it to go to the lender, notes included.
Oh, that's good, because sometimes you do want to make notes from your conversations, and that's a really good way to kind of have them. And like you say, if you put the pin in it, especially if you've got all those categories, if you're in the modern view, if you have all the categories collapsed, the note actually appears fairly obviously on that collapsed list. So
you can actually, I try not to go into too many features because people's heads will explode. Yes. But on modern view, you can actually decide where you want things to show up. And so you put the notes at the very, very top. It's the first thing you see. Bang, fraud. Don't give them approval or whatever. Yeah, lots of cool things in here. Lots of cool things to learn, but it's baby steps. You don't have to. It's when you're ready. And
so today, we're going to talk about the CRM next time, but I know one of the big questions with regard to the CRM is, when let's say you want to try to create a campaign and you create a test campaign, is there an ability now, and we can talk about this in 3 weeks if you want, is there an ability to get rid of campaigns that you didn't want to set up?
No, it's coming. But wait till you see mine, because I demo it all the time. I got thousands of campaigns that are tested. No, it actually, you know what? Let's just take a look. I don't think so. I know it's on their to-do list, but I don't believe so. Let's check right now.
Okay, for those neat freaks, you're gonna have to bear with it.
Campaigns. Oh, hold on. Hold on. I see a garbage can there now. You must pause this campaign before delete. Pete, yes, you can.
We can get rid of them.
Watch. Again, you're stealing my thunder for next week, but
This is good.
This is super good.
Important.
So Pete, if you know this, what it looks like, this is what you're talking about. All these little demos that I've done, I got thousands of them. You can now, even though it's not published, I pause it, and then you can trash it. Woo!
I like it. There's a new trash button there. That's so good.
I don't know why it makes you pause it because it's not even live yet, but hit the pause, trash it, done. Now you can be your neat freak again.
Wow.
Oh, exciting.
That's
so
big.
there's a preview to next week. We're going to get into cool things. And let me inspire you. Imagine this. You fund a mortgage and automatically an email goes out and says, thanks, love you, give me a Google review. Automatically email goes out after the first payment. How did everything go? Automatically a birthday message goes out. Automatically a message goes out every year to remind them of their prepayment privileges. And automatically an email goes out, a couple of them goes out to remind them that you're going to contact them close to the renewal time. So the cycle of a mortgage is automatically done and you renew them and it starts over again until they're mortgage free. So the CRM, without you doing virtually anything, is going to talk to your clients 2 to 4 times every year until they're mortgage free. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, anything else? All right, silence is a good thing, I guess. Pete, want to wrap her up?
Thank you so much, Greg. Really appreciate your time. I know that those columns, again, if you don't use them, it probably doesn't make too much sense. But at the same time, I think there are good little visual cues that we can use those various columns and the statuses for that help us to, like Greg says, they help you to kind of clue into something that you should probably do. So the tidier it can be, I think the better it is.
You got it, Ed.